Hi everyone, here we are looking at the lasso selection tools today. Again, looking at the toolbar, we're on the left hand side. We actually have three options. If I click and hold down on the lasso tool, you'll see we have options for what looks like a beautiful round shape lasso tool. We have a very angular polygonal lasso tool. And then last we have what's called the magnetic lasso tool. Looking at the symbol, we see a little horseshoe shaped magnet to again give us the indication that distinguishes one from the other. The real important thing to think about is what is the right tool for the right job. We'll talk about all three and the possible applications, looking at this awesome image of me that we're going to be looking at to separate myself from both the background and the foreground. As you probably know at this point, we have four options for the selection tool: the new selection, add to, subtract from, and intersect with. We have our feather set at 0. My recommendation is always to make a selection first, then go to select, modify, and feather, so that if you realize that your feather is too strong or too weak, you can go back and change it. When it's set here initially, there's no going back to change it. So, taking a look at these three tools very quickly, let's zoom in and not be distracted by those delicious pancakes. And if we look at the lasso tool, by clicking, holding the mouse or trackpad button down, I can drag a freeform shape, and when I let go, it will close the shape. If I draw a freeform shape and do not come back to the beginning, it's going to join with a straight line back to the start. So if we think about this in kind of a logical progression, I could be making a selection bit by bit, and even if those shapes aren't all self-contained to begin with, I can make them self-contained or smooth edged. Command D to deselect. The polygonal lasso tool involves individual clicks between one point and another. As we know, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. If you noticed there, we had a circle appear when I got back to my starting point. And it's basically saying, do you want to close the shape? Circle is a closed shape, but even though it's polygonal, we now have a closed shape. Individual clicks, if I come here and double click, it will go back to the starting point and close the shape. As we know from the add to selection, even though these shapes don't overlap, I could very easily add an element here. Subtracting from, I could remove a component like so. And with the intersect option, I could be doing something that chooses the range between what was previously active and the new shape that I just created. Command D to deselect, and let's jump into the magnetic selection tool. And we're going to do that by maybe looking at the edge of these pancakes right here. The magnetic selection tool actually has some options here involving contrast, frequency, and width. For the contrast, it's looking at the difference between one boundary and another. Right now I have this at 30%. Frequency is the point at which it will create points along the way. In other words, as I drag along here, I'm making one click. I'll actually start over here. And as I'm dragging along the edge, it's looking at the contrast. It doesn't know what a pancake is. Poor computer. But it's adding those dots all on its own. I can choose by myself to click to make sure that it's recognizing the edge, or even though they're round, maybe the corner between one pancake and another. Maybe if I decide that I'm going to jump through here, I'll click to define my own points, because on either side of this line there's not a lot of variety or contrast. So you can see it's kind of wobbling, guessing, trying to find a boundary and adding those points along the way. But if I come to here, I'll add a point, click. I think it's finding enough contrast along here for my liking for purposes of demonstration. I now have that closed shape. It assumes that this is what I want, and we're good. Again, pressing Command J gives me a very hard edged shape. If I come back in my history to the selection, I can go to Select, Modify, Feather, and with something like an option of 5, when I press Command J, you'll see that now that selection is much more smoky. So again, think about what kind of setting you might want to have as well as you're making selections. Okay. And what I am going to suggest that you do right now is experiment a little bit yourself with all three, not worrying about what the final outcome looks like. When you're ready, you can unpause the video and we will take a look at how I go through making the selections on this myself. Okay, welcome back. So we have reviewed the lasso, polygonal lasso, and magnetic lasso tools. And what I'm going to do is, because of the complexity of this image, I'm going to start off by using the magnetic lasso tool to do a quick selection around the edges of this. We'll then come back and refine it with something like the lasso tool. So you're going to watch this happen in a sped up version. Okay. So we've got a big selection made around the image here, and zooming in we can see that it is not perfect, but it's pretty good considering how long it actually took me. Going over to the lasso tool now, I'm going to choose something like subtract from selection. Very carefully tracing along the contour of my face, the shoulder here. As we mentioned before, if I now let go of the mouse, you can see it goes back to its starting point. So it's very easy to just look at boundary like this, come back, let it close on itself. Here a portion is missing, so I'll switch back to the Add to selection. Coming a little bit outside, looping back. Great. The same thing needs to be happening in areas like this, maybe through here. So again, I'm going to do a little bit of quick cleanup coming along here. I'll be speeding up the video for this part. Okay, great. So here we are all set. And now, looking at the background layer here, if I press Command J, you'll see that I have myself cut out very hard-edged, very sharp, almost like done with a magazine or an X-Acto blade. I'm pretty happy with the results. If I wasn't satisfied, one thing I could consider is coming back here to select, modify, choosing feather. And again, the idea being that with a smaller number here, if I make a copy of that selection, the edges are a little bit fuzzier so that it can transition more naturally into some other background that this is going to be placed against. This is my pancake from before. We can go ahead and get rid of that. And the idea is this is that piece that I really want. To be honest though, I think I'm happiest with the way that it looks here without a feather. And I think this will be the copy of the file that I end up saving. So, as for your own, go ahead and proceed with using the various lasso selection tools to do your own work. And thanks for watching.